while having mentored thousands of families for health and wellness.
Good evening, everyone. Um, and as introduced, I am Pooja Awasty, and I'm very excited to be, sharing a little bit about myself, my experiences with all of you. And it's always a privilege to speak, for Mentor Mitr. They are friends. They are people that I really admire, and it's always great that they give me this platform where I can actually get down to sharing my experiences right from my heart, and on topics which are actually very dear to me. So for today we are going to be talking about that tough times do not last, but tough people do, and I think it's very apt for today's times because we are experiencing unprecedented times. We are experiencing very tough times right now. People are going through a lot, and everybody is being tested. Everybody is discovering strengths. Everybody is kind of getting to know a little bit more about themselves. There's not much happening outside, so when such situations happen, people generally look inwards, and I think that's a great thing to do. Because I feel this is a perfect time to reset, reinvent, rediscover, a lot of things, a lot of aspects about ourselves, and lots of creativity can actually happen, during these times. So historically, we've seen, that at the time of great adversity, there have also been great opportunities, great things have happened. It is said, I don't know really how far it is, like, absolutely the truth, that Newton also, during a plague, was when he was sitting under the apple tree, and that's that eureka movement that we've all heard about. So of course, great adversity also brings in great opportunities. It just depends upon how we look, and how do we inculcate that, how do we inculcate that toughness, which I think is so important, not only post COVID, but also I think pre COVID. Toughness is something, a tough mindset. Of course, with empathy and compassion. I'm not saying being hardened. I'm just saying being a mentally tough becomes very, very important, right? And like Nelson Mandela said, that I win or I learn. I never lose, right? So that's a very, very good mantra to to always kind of hold on to. And also remember that ships never sink because of water around them. Ships always sink because of the water inside them, right? So whatever is happening outside, I think if we are very, very kind of careful and kind of deliberate about our mindsets and our attitude, which actually will determine a lot of things, a lot of things going great for us, and a lot of things that can go continue to go great for a long, long time, because these unprecedented times that we are experiencing is neither the first time, and it's not going to be there also. It's not something that will not be repeated, and if it is not, God willing, it should not. We always experience some challenges, in our life, and that's what life is all about. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been from the army background. My father was in the army. So I think one tough thing that I always did was, I always had to experience was that every 2 years to move to a new location. So change your school, change your friends, leave your friends behind, leave your house behind, settle down in a new place, get down to making newer friends, again, adjust to a school, adjust to the teachers around, adjust to a lot of things around you. So I think that kind of imparted a lot of flexibility inside me. And it also kind of built a little bit of a mental toughness, which obviously at that point of time I had no realization about. I didn't know that that's what is happening, but I think that's exactly what happened as well. So of course, education, like in India, a lot of people, parents are always very education focused. My father was also, he really wanted, we are two sisters, so he really wanted to give us good education. But at the same time, I had a tough father, in the sense that he always felt that these are girls, but you know what, I'm not going to make them softer, I'm not going to make them weak. So there were certain things that, you know, he kind of it became very normal for us. You know, he just treated us in a different manner. You know, he just wanted us to kind of, you know, be a little strong, because I guess parents know that it's a tough world outside. And you know, if you're preparing your children that way, or if you're dealing with certain things, you know, of course all that love and all that thing is very, very important. But at the same time, there are certain habits that you know, which are there, which you kind of imbibe from the childhood, which kind of, you know, creates your value systems, create the strength that you have. And I feel, you know, sometimes we kind of we don't like our parents doing a lot of that. I didn't at that point of time, I didn't appreciate, you know, like I'll give you a very small example. You know, I used to ride a cycle to my school in a you know, it was a cantonment. And you know, I used to ride, and there was a time that, you know, next day was my exam, and you know, there was a puncture, and I needed to get that repaired. And it was you know, around 7:30 in the evening. And usually, you know, fathers will not send their girls alone. But he said, you know what, you have an exam and I can't be early, and you know, why don't you just go and get it, you know, get it done for yourself. And I just felt, I said, why he's not helping me? He's a army guy, there's always somebody that he can send me with, you know what. But okay, he knew it was near our house, and he was probably keeping an eye on me, but he wanted me to do that. He didn't want me to cap myself into, you know, he didn't want to create limitations around me, that these are only few things that I should be or can be doing. And I didn't appreciate that at that point of time. But today I think it was so very, very important in kind of, you know, creating that right mindset in me. So what I'm trying to tell you is that a lot of times you're not going to appreciate a lot of things that your parents are telling you at this point of time, but believe me, they have your best interest in mind. Yeah, so just go with it. Just be patient. Just realize that it's going to really serve you very well in the near future. uh, right. And of course, you know, so that of course, you know, the childhood, the education, everything kind of shapes you. And you know, so of course, you know, there are lots of experiences in your life. I you know, I obviously, you know, when I moved to Delhi, you know, got married. I was ambitious because my father had always told us that, you know, it's very important to do something of your own. And I always wanted to do something of my own. I was just not very you know, satisfied in just taking a role of just you know, of just getting into you know, being a housewife, or just being you know, there. And I always feel that people can balance stuff beautifully, right? And everybody has immense capabilities. It's all about working on those capabilities and finding a right balance. And then, you know, if you multitask and if there are things to be done, they are done. And thank God for the decisions that I took. But I particularly want to talk about one experience where, you know, where I think I kind of rediscovered myself. I kind of rediscovered my strengths. I kind of developed that compassion and that empathy, which was so very important, and the kind of wisdom that I think it's only tough times, which kind, tough times that actually can give you those things, right? Because it said, you know, that it's not where you go or with whom you're going. It's, you know, it's what you're doing, or even when you're hanging on to something, even when the other people are left, which really makes a huge amount of difference, right? And I always feel in my heart that never ever follow a crowd, always follow your dreams. You know, because if majority was right, majority should have been very, very wealthy, which majority would have been you know, a lot wiser, you know, a lot of things which they are not. So we kind of always look for people, what they are doing, acceptable things, you know, to be done. And I think you always need to follow your dreams here, right? And you know, if you're talking about tough times, I have this example of a lady who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and very, very rare form of cancer. And you know, she kind of really you know, she took that initiative. She really worked on the nutrition part. She healed herself, and today she writes you know, she's got the biggest wellness blogs in the world, and she's not made a difference only to herself. She's today's made a difference to a lot of other people, giving them ways to heal themselves. So we always need such torch bearers. We always need to hear such stories with, who always kind of motivate us, right? Okay, so this experience that I've had, I'll just talk about a few points, and I'll also keep sharing my experiences and my learning from the experiences, because what I'm excited to share with you actually today is the learning from those experiences, right? So that's how it happens. I mean, when the adversity comes, it doesn't kind of, it's not like a big noise that it makes, or it's not something like that. It's a small tiny knock, on your door, and and that's how it starts. And then of course it has life changing impact on you, and it has life changing impact in the sense, either there are some people who are so broken by it, or there are some people who just kind of move ahead with it, and it's a fantastic learning experience, because like I said, everything is there, which gives you learning, provided you are there in that learning mode, you are thinking of that learning, you're kind of open to it, because every experience is a learning opportunity, right? And I hope you always get the right message, because everything has two parts, positive and negatives, right? And I just hope that it's always the positives that we can actually kind of take for ourselves, and work on them and move ahead in life. So the one fine day, I get up in the morning, and I just don't feel very good, and I have a tingling in my tongue. So it was summers, and you drink cold water. So the moment I had cold water, there was a lot of tingling in my tongue, and one just thinks, okay, maybe some sensitivity is happening in the tongue. The next day, I open the fridge and I pick up a pan, and there are tingling in my fingers, and that's when I think that I decided I'll go and get myself checked to a. So I went to a general physician, and he gave me a whole lot of tests, vitamin B levels, to check my vitamin D levels, because these are the ones which are generally, which causes some kind of problems, some deficiency. And that's what even I thought. And I was doing my regular work, traveling, working, meeting up with, doing sessions, doing meetings, and it was regular, it was normal thing, right? And these tests take 2 to 3 days. And of course, a night before, I remember myself being very tired, being unusually tired. And a lot of times when you're tired, you also just kind of, kind of brush it aside and say, okay, I've had a tough day. Or maybe, sometimes you feel something like that. I get up in the morning, throughout the night, that feeling of something is not right in the body, that subconsciously you're feeling, right? I get up in the morning and I have this feeling of something is not right. It's a Sunday, right? And of course the doctors are not available, so I just having tea, I just walked out, spoke to my husband, and I said, I think there is something not right, let's go to the hospital, right? So always work on your instinct. There wasn't something majorly wrong, there was not something that I could really pinpoint, but that gut feeling of something not being right. And you know what? I think when you say it with a conviction, my husband didn't say anything. He didn't say, because usually the kind of response that you're going to be getting during these times would be, why don't you wait? Why don't you rest? Today's a Sunday. We'll have to go to the emergency in our hospital. Do you think it's that much? Why don't you take it easy? Usually we kind of say certain things like this. But I think, he saw that kind of a conviction on my face. And he said, okay, let's. So, we just, drove down. Hospital was about 5 minutes away. That's it. I went to the emergency, and they checked some basic parameters. There was a little bit of a viral fever, which at that point of time they thought it was viral. And the blood pressure was a little up, and so it was just they just diagnosed it as viral. But because I was telling them that I'm experiencing a little bit of weakness and all, they said, okay, we'll keep you 1 day in the hospital, so just get yourself admitted. So all that process happened, and that's when every day while the tests were happening, I was deteriorating my my condition. I was finding it difficult to move my arms. I was finding it difficult. My stomach, my stomach muscles felt very, very weak. I was having difficulty moving my arms, and the doctors were coming in and they were telling me, why don't you raise your arms? And I was telling them I can't. And they were saying that, oh, this is how you raise your arms. This is not how you raise your arms. And, I was laughing with them and I was saying, look, I cannot in a day's time forget how to, raise my arms. I've been doing that since childhood. So always have a sense of humor during adverse situations, during adversity, right? Don't ever lose it, right? So I was laughing with them and I was telling them, I said, look, I can't forget that. And, they said, no, no, this is how you raise. But I was not able to raise my hands, right? And then, I was taken for a lot of tests. And there was one very scary incident that I want to share with you is that, during this time, of course, I had my phone and I was also, reading on my own. I was, on the Google, I was finding out symptoms and I was finding out a lot of things because my condition was not diagnosed till then. And this is all, I'm in the hospital and I'm in the lying in the bed and it's not being diagnosed. And I was like telling doctor, okay, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, speaking to some people, so I told him, I said, why don't you get my MRI done of my brain and my spine, because I have these, apparently I have these weaknesses, right? And I was taken for the MRI, and after the MRI they put me on a chair and they got the wheel until till the time my attendant was getting the wheelchair for me to sit down and take me up to the room again. And I remember I was sitting with the back on the chair, and they told me, okay, let's go on to the wheelchair, and I couldn't move. I absolutely could not move. And I remember my husband and my attendant at that point of time, they literally picked me up, and those, there were people around, and those eyes around me where people were looking at me and feeling, as if, my God, I mean, what's wrong with this lady? She can't move one bit. And that is such a scary thing. So every time, I can move my hands, I can move my arms, I can move my body, I am so grateful, because I've seen when it doesn't happen. So always be very grateful for, what you have. There was once I was listening to an audio of a very successful lady who actually had a child who was born with spina bifida, had massive challenges. And even during my time at the hospital, I was remembering these one sentences, and I was hanging on to to those things, being very grateful. And she said, and her son is still on the wheelchair, and it's totally easily leading a wheelchair assisted life, right? So she says, in one of the audios that I listened to, she was saying that, that every time you stand up and you can walk to your washroom, to your bathroom, and you can take a shower, you can actually take a shower. Are you really grateful? Because, when we do these normal routine things, we're not very, kind of, we take them so much for granted. I mean, this is something that we do day in and day out, right? She said, are you really grateful when you do this? And, at that point of time when I was there in the hospital and I was experiencing so many challenges, I could still move my legs. And, I was very grateful that, that there are certain things that are still working for me. Until date, when I can sit, I can get up. And there's so many times, like I'm just sitting very relaxed and I kind of raise my hand and I say, oh God, I'm so grateful that I can raise my hands. Because remember, there was a time when this was just not possible. So long story short, I was diagnosed with the syndrome. I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, right? Now, this is a very, very rare syndrome which happens because of the myelin sheath, which is there on your nerves. It's an autoimmune thing where your body's white blood cells actually destroy those myelin sheath. Now, what does the myelin sheath do? It transmits the messages between nerves and muscles. So with that sheath being removed, there is no transmission. So the muscles are not, or any response is not happening because that message is not being transmitted, right? And it takes a little time because there are lots of other neurological syndromes like this. So it takes a little bit of time to be diagnosed, right? So it took me 2-3 days. So they check two, their diagnosis happens when they see two limbs, absolutely no response. So for me, the two limbs which absolutely did not work or did not have any response were my arms, right? And I had my hands closed like this. So even if I could open my hands, right? If they were closed like this, they were closed. I had no strength. and no transmission that was happening also. I could open my mouth, I couldn't swallow. The doctor used to continuously ask me, are you able to breathe? Because obviously the next stage would be, there was a ventilator on standby, that the next stage would be that the breathing, the breathing mechanism also would, the muscles would also get impacted and hence be on the ventilator. Thank God for that. Right? So all this time that I'm going through, I think what was very, very important, and that was the conditioning, and that was, was that I was very positive. Never for once did I think, okay, something very bad is going to happen to me. I just knew I'm going to bounce back. Okay, this is a problem. This is a problem. We'll find a solution and we'll bounce back. So I was always thinking, and I was very, very, I was holding on to a lot of things that I still needed to do in my life. Very, that hope, and that feeling of a lot of things is still left for me. And I was focusing there rather than focusing in my, on my challenges at that point of time. So of course I stayed in the hospital for 15 days. So any medicine only stops the, the progress. It doesn't reverse it. So everything that has got affected will only happen now. The recovery will only happen through physiotherapy, right? So I couldn't speak. My voice was changed. I couldn't swallow for months. I couldn't raise my arms. I couldn't do a lot of things with my hands, which I was, I couldn't comb my hair. So many things that we just take for granted in our life. And it took me months, a couple of months for me to actually get back to doing those regular everyday stuff, right? So, coming out of the hospital, I was mentally prepared, right? So during adverse times, very, very important is to be mentally prepared, right? So you should know what you're in for, because once you're there, then you'll only think of solutions, right? So never be in denial of what is happening. Be aware, but also be aware of, how that positivity and that bouncing back, but also be mentally prepared. So I was mentally prepared that my next 2-3 months I have to work a lot on myself. I have to, so that I can do a lot of other things properly, I have to heal myself. So be very focused about, being prepared for situation that is around you, right? Um, and that's where your core values and your core, your strength, your strength of character, which actually will help you. So regularly be doing certain exercises in your life, which actually helps you to kind of build that strength in you, right? So it could be anything. I mean, it could be like giving up something for some time, not saying yes to everything at all the time, right? It could be anything. How do you build that strength when you're not, you build that strength when you kind of also, how do you build that tough muscle in your brain, right? When you probably, kind of not give yourself too easily in terms of a lot of things that we take for granted, right? So I don't know what you would want to do. Create that tough muscle. Learn to take a no, learn to say a no, right? Learn to kind of if you're very used to partying, and why not give yourself a break and say, okay, this week I'll just be doing this, I'll just read a couple of more books, you know uh, be prepared. Learn to prepare yourself that way, because you never know when it's going to come very, very handy in your life, right? Refuse to give up. I never gave up during that time. When I was reading, I was going through Google and I was looking at a lot of people. People have had tough time with bullying power. I mean, there are people who have never totally come out of it, right? There are people who've had lifelong disability with it. There are people who can't walk. There are people who can't breathe. They can't laugh because that will give them a coughing spell. They have perpetual challenges where that is concerned, right? So people have had a lot of tough times there, right? So don't focus on that. Focus on your body. Focus on healing your, and that's exactly what I did, and being in the right mind space. So I was not talking to a lot of people. I was not taking, I was not hearing to a lot of sympathies coming my way. I was not. I was shutting myself up in terms of how I was creating a boundary around me. And I always feel that, whether you're fighting for a goal, or whether, you started new work, or you're starting a new business, or you're getting down to doing something, whether it's education related, you have an exam to pass, just create that boundary around you. Don't get distracted or impacted by a lot of people around you. You have to be in the right mind space. No gain without, you know, here I would not say pain. I would say no gain without kind of, limiting yourself in that area, right? So I just kind of, I didn't want to hear any negatives, right? I just wanted to hear only positives, and that's something that happens to me even till date. The moment I hear a lot of negativity, I start, my brain starts, kind of blocking, and I start closing myself, right? So very, very important. And then also what helped me to recover was a purpose in life. Like I said, there was a lot of unfinished things that I needed to complete, right? There was this trip that we had planned, through my organization. It was a second generation trip, and I was taking my boys on a holiday abroad, and we were planning for it for a year. For a year I was looking forward to it. So my illness happened in July, the whole of August, till the end of August, I was in the hospital. And September, October, November, December, I just had 4 months to heal myself, and I had this huge, purpose in the sense of the work that I loved. And I was so aware of certain unfinished things that I needed to do, lots of stuff, and that purpose and that holiday that I had planned is something that gave me such immense power to heal myself, because that also gave me a time limit. It's December. By December I have to heal for me to be able to go on that trip. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, I resumed my work within a month. And till date, when I go for any medical consultancy and I kind of tell them my history, my doctor looks at, any doctor, it can be any doctor, not my doctor. My doctor obviously knows about it. The doctor looks at me, and the first thing the doctor says is, you're a lucky girl. You know, and I really, I'm so grateful for that. And yes, I feel I'm so lucky, right? And also I got down to being lucky because of all those points that I talked to you about, right? So believe in yourself, believe in what you really want to do. So what do you do? How do you focus? How do you create that focus, right? So focusing at one step at a time. So remember, there's always a slight edge principle, right? So during adverse times, it may not necessarily be illness. It can be anything. It can be, what we're experiencing today. It could be some adversity, or some kind of a break, in your education process. It could be anything. It's something that you were really aiming for, and there seemed to be some challenge there, right? And we see a lot of people breaking up today. We see a lot of untoward things that are happening today. Mental issues are becoming really huge. Why? Because of unrealized dreams and unrealized, kind of, things that they're looking at, and not being mentally capable of then moving and finding out ways and solutions to move ahead, right? So focus at one step at a time, small steps. Life goals achieving is always one small step at a time. If you do that properly, if you can give that one small step 100%, your work is done. You're moving on, you're progressing, right? um, right? And soon you will be doing something that is, start by doing something which is necessary. Soon you'll be doing something that is possible, and then of course you'll get down to doing certain things that are impossible. For me, walking, carrying stuff, without being on the wheelchair, walking on in the airports was not something which was possible. If I looked and if I heard a lot of people, it didn't seem very possible at that point of time. I knew somebody who came and who recovered in 3 years time, right? And I was trying to do it in 3 months. So it wasn't something that was possible, right? But one step at a time, one small step at a time. I remember the moment I was discharged, the first thing I told my husband was, I need a physiotherapist at home. So I think I got discharged. A lot of times somebody would say, oh, we've just got discharged, I'll give myself to kind of adjust to the house. I reached home and the physiotherapist was there. I gave him my history and I said, okay, let's get down to work. I'm ready to work with you, right? Twice a day. And once I remember, my regular physiotherapist had to go for a medical emergency to his hometown. And, before he went, I had already found out another clinic where I would go for my physiotherapy. I didn't want to lose time. one step at a time, but doing that, right? What determines your success is not where you are now, but the obstacles that you have overcome to be where you are right now, right? So immense learning experience in that. So embrace all the obstacles that are there, embrace the challenges that are there. Don't get disappointed, depressed, dejected by them, because that's the learning that is, coming from there is actually helping you, for bigger things in life, right? There's nothing called hard luck. Hard work overcomes that, right? So this is one thing, this is that one message that I can come. There's nothing like luck, or some people just got lucky, or their destiny was this. I don't think that's much of it. It's your habits that actually creates your destinies, right? So make sure that you're creating those habits, right? And also, there is this Mr. Honda who said that success is so overrated. It's 99% failure, right? So it's those challenges that you face, the roadblocks that you face, which helps you to move ahead in life, right? And a lot of times, somebody would say, okay, my hard times told me who my friends were, or who my friends were not. And I would say, I always feel that a lot of things happen to you are your private property, private things, like the pain that I have to experience, nobody else can, right? And it's not about finding and getting to know who the right people are or were not. It's all about, healing yourself and you being the right person, you being the right person. Because obviously there are always people, who will come with some kind of, who would have certain strengths and certain, certain things which will match up with you and will not match up with you. But I think I kind of feel that in my journey of life, everybody that I encounter, is so much I can learn from. There are things that can inspire me, or there are things that I can say, oh look, this is not something that I want to do, or this is not something that I want to. This is not who I would want to become. So everybody who comes and kind of I interact with in my journey of life is always a learning experience. So I kind of never compartmentalize. There are people to teach me stuff. There are people to inspire me. There are people to show me certain very very good things, and there are people also there to show me what are the things that should not be done in life, right? So I just feel I become more open person. I'm far more compassionate. I'm very empathetic towards people and their challenges. I can really help them with what they're going through, because those days in the hospital when your mind is telling you a lot of stuff, and you are overcoming it every day, every hour, you kind of the fear is coming and you're pushing it at the back. Then again that doubt is coming, you're pushing it at the back. So every hour, that conversation that I had with myself for day in and day out for 20 days has actually helped me so much that I can help a lot of people fight a lot of things and come out happier and more positive people. So I just feel that it's that tough time which has actually kind of defined me today, right? It's made me a better person. It's made me a far more patient person, right? It's helped me to be in a place and a situation, being a very restless